There is a certain kind of person who can walk into almost any room and adjust. They fit in with their coworkers. They fit in with their old school friends. They fit in with their family at the dinner table. From the outside, it looks like they belong everywhere. But ask them quietly if they've ever felt completely at home somewhere and something changes in their face. A small pause, a search for an honest answer. Because the truth is, they can't really remember the last time they felt that way. Not at their childhood house, not in the city they live in now. Not even sometimes in their own body. Most people assume that feeling at home is something you either have or you don't, tied to a place, a house, a hometown. But for some people, that feeling never quite arrives, no matter where they are or how long they stay. Today, we're going to talk about why some people never feel at home anywhere, where this feeling actually comes from, and what it means if you've spent your whole life quietly searching for a place that feels like yours. So why would someone feel like an outsider everywhere, even in places they've lived for years? The answer usually isn't about the place at all. It's about something that happened earlier, often much earlier, that changed how a person relates to the idea of home in the first place. For some people, home wasn't stable growing up. Maybe they moved a lot. Maybe the house was the same, but the feeling inside it kept changing, calm one week, tense the next, depending on things that were never fully explained to them. When home doesn't feel safe or steady, a child's mind learns something important. Don't get too attached to any one place, because it might not stay the way you need it to. For other people, it's not about moving houses at all. It's about never quite feeling like they fit the family they grew up in. Different interests, different pace. A sense, even as a kid, of being the odd one out at their own dinner table. Either way, the lesson learned is the same. Home stops being a place you can fully relax into. It becomes something you manage. Something you get good at performing, without ever really settling into it. And that pattern doesn't go away just because you grow up and move out. It follows you into your first apartment, into new cities, into relationships. You can live somewhere for 10 years and still feel, on a quiet Tuesday night, like a guest in your own life. This isn't about being ungrateful or dramatic or hard to please. It's about a nervous system that learned, a long time ago, that home is not something to be trusted completely. And once that lesson is learned, it's very hard to unlearn just by changing your address. Let's look at what this actually feels like day to day. First, they often feel like a visitor in their own life, even in places they've lived for years. They can walk through their own apartment and still feel, somewhere underneath, like they're just passing through. Not because the space isn't nice, not because they don't like it there. It's something quieter than that. A sense that they haven't fully unpacked, even when every box has been unpacked for months. Have you ever lived somewhere for a long time and still felt like you were just staying there for a while? Second, when someone asks, "Where are you from?" the question feels strangely hard to answer. Most people answer this in one breath. But for someone who never felt at home anywhere, the question can trigger a small internal pause. Do they mean where I was born, where I grew up, where I live now? None of those places ever felt like the full answer. So the question that should be simple ends up being one of the hardest ones they get asked. Third, they adapt so well to new places that people assume they're completely comfortable, when really, they've just gotten good at not needing to feel comfortable. They can move to a new city and figure it out fast. New job, new routine, new grocery store, no problem. People often compliment how easily they adjust. What those people don't see is that this isn't ease. It's a skill built out of necessity, learned by someone who never had the luxury of putting down roots and expecting them to hold. Fourth, they sometimes feel most like themselves in places that aren't really home at all. Hotel rooms, other people's houses, cities they're only visiting. There's a strange kind of relief in being somewhere temporary. No pressure to make it feel like it means something. No quiet disappointment when it doesn't. Sometimes it's easier to feel okay in a place you know you're leaving than in a place you're supposed to call your own. And fifth, they often build a sense of home around people instead of places, because people at least can follow them anywhere. If a certain friend is in the room, or a certain person is on the phone, things feel steadier. Not because the walls around them changed, but because home for them was never really about walls. It was about finding somewhere or someone that didn't feel like it might disappear. Here's the part that's hard to say out loud. After enough years of not fully belonging anywhere, you can start to believe that the problem is you. That everyone else figured out how to feel settled, and you just haven't found the right place yet. So you keep looking, new apartment, new city, new relationship, waiting for the moment it finally clicks. But the click rarely comes from the outside, because the feeling was never really about the place to begin with. This is the quiet exhaustion underneath it all. You can love your life and still feel like you're floating slightly above it. You can have people who care about you and still lie awake wondering why nowhere ever feels like enough. And because it's hard to explain without sounding ungrateful, most people carry this quietly, assuming they're the only one who feels this way. They're not. But here's what's important to understand. This isn't a flaw in you. It's not something broken that needs fixing with the right house or the right city. It's simply what happens when a person learned early on that home wasn't something to fully trust. You adapted. You got good at not needing a place to hold you because for a long time no place could. But that adaptation doesn't have to be permanent. The first shift is small. Start noticing that home might not be a place you find, but something you slowly build on purpose in the life you already have. A familiar coffee mug, a weekly routine, a window you like to sit near. These aren't small things. They're the beginning of somewhere that's actually yours. The second shift is this. Let yourself stay somewhere long enough to find out if it could feel like home, instead of leaving just before it has the chance to. The instinct to keep moving made sense once. It kept you safe. But it can also, without meaning to, keep you from ever finding out what staying might feel like. You were never too hard to please. You were simply never given a place that stayed still long enough for you to trust it. If any part of this felt familiar, if you've ever stood in a place you've lived in for years and still felt like a visitor, I want you to know this. That feeling doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It just means you've been carrying a very old lesson about home, one you didn't choose, for a very long time. You don't have to keep carrying it alone. If this video reached something in you, leave a comment below. Or even just a dot, so we know no one is sitting with this feeling by themselves tonight.